Good morning and welcome back to The Morning Magazine. Presented by Comfort Air Heating, Cooling. It's time for part 2.
Welcome back, everybody, to Morning Magazine for this February 16th, 2022. You have your host, James, here. And, of course, we are joined by our friends from Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. Good morning to Kev and the gang over there. And right now in studio is our great friend, Andy Barnett from McMillan Memorial Library. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, James.
Good to have you with us.
It's good to be back on the radio.
How have you been?
Relatively good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a tough 2 years for all kinds of people, for all kinds of reasons. And you layer work and COVID and everything, and then you actually have a life.
Right, yeah.
On the side, it's like, oh yeah, there's things going on in my family that these things they pile up on people, and it's important to just be aware and get through them all.
The last time you were with us, Andy, we touched on it a little bit because I think the news kind of just broke. Now it's a little bit well known that you're going to be retiring soon.
Yes. I've set a July 1st retirement date. My wife is retiring June 30th. I'm giving her 1 day by herself, and then she'll have to put up with me for the rest of my life.
Good, nice, very classy of you.
Yeah.
That is a good story of the day right there, to hear both of you are able to do that. That's fantastic. But it kind of also touches on what you were just starting with there, about how busy life can be. And what we're doing so much more now, I think it seems like a lesson learned by almost all of us from this pandemic is the balance of work and life, and how do we do that better. And I think you're a good example of that, of what you're doing with this. Go ahead.
I think it's important for employers to recognize that everyone they meet everyone that in their business, everyone who works with them has a load on them that you don't see, and that's kind of always been the case. But it's especially important to recognize now, and people who walk into your where you work, your place of business, whatever. They're all coming in with a load, in some case, of trauma, and you gotta just be calm and recognize that and move on.
Do you think that part of your insight on that, help on that, seeing that, comes from the kind of work that you've done for so many years? You work with people a lot, you see a lot of people, especially at a library where it is. To me, it's always seemed to be one of a sort of a hub, a community hub. Most libraries tend to be that way. Our McMillan Library is certainly that. Do you think that's part of the reason where that comes from?
I think we've worked very hard to make the library a value to the community as a whole, as a social place, and recognizing that we were without that at a time when people really needed social connection. Leads us to just being real eager to get back to being a place where people meet, where they run into each other, where no one's trying to sell them anything. They don't need to buy something to be in the building. They can just stop in, hang out, get a cup of coffee maybe, watch a movie, do whatever it is they want to do that day. And we need that kind of space in today's lives. We really do.
Got some fun new things happening over at the library. I know the community has been talking about it like crazy. It seems like every other person I talk to, and especially who isn't my mom, that's all they want to talk about. That's all my mom wants to talk about. I try to get her to talk about other things, like my kids or something like that. No, she just wants to talk about the library. I'm kidding. I'm joking. But she's really excited. I know a lot of people are. Let's dive into that a little bit.
Well, I think one of the starting places is we're back to our pre-COVID hours. We're open till 8, Monday through Thursday, Friday till 6, Saturday till 5. Come on in. All the books are there. Everything's, some things have been rearranged, but we have all the books we ever had, all the DVDs we ever have. We have as much shelving as we ever had. And we have a whole bunch of new stuff, some of which isn't quite cleared for occupancy yet, but will be real soon. And stop in and see our new skylight, because the skylight was totally rebuilt, and it's amazing. It's the way a skylight would be built if it were new. But just to be able to get back in and have chairs and tables and sit down in a corner and have some quiet, or sit with some friends and talk, or play a game with your kids or something. Having all the spaces open again is really, really nice. So, and having the hours back to where they belong is really good. And people ask us, when are you going to be open? It's like, well, we've always kind of been open, but now we're open with our regular hours till 8, Monday through Thursday, Friday 6, and Saturday till 5.
As a community, we hear something like that. We're very happy and we like having the hours back. But the decision to do that doesn't just happen like, hey, let's do this and it's done. Just behind the scenes a little bit, how you guys came to okay, now's the time to be able to do this.
Well, there's a number of factors. There were points in this where we were running a spreadsheet to see which of our staff were coming off quarantine and which of them weren't, and how many people could we bring in at any one day. I think we're beyond that.
Yes.
People got vaxxed. The case numbers are falling real fast in Rapids right now. There was advice from the health department on how many people should be in a building and reduced capacity. I think the library is a big, well-ventilated building. So I think we're past that too. So that was a good thing. During construction, there was limited amounts of things people could do in certain areas. We're mainly past that now. So there's just, it was finally time to get it all back together. Thank goodness.
Yes. Yeah. As everybody is just like, phew. But I think it's important to hear that stuff and to know that the work that goes into that decision-making process. And I appreciate you sharing that. And I couldn't agree with you more. Certainly we don't take things lightly. We've still got work to do here, but things are getting better and things are opening up more. We can chew gum and walk at the same time. We can understand that there is still some work to be doing. It's not the time to take our foot off the gas. And at the same time, we have lives to live and we have a world to get it back to. Things like the library having their hours extended and going back to their normal hours, or the old normal, whatever that is.
We don't know what.
Who knows what normal is?
New normal is going to be different, but the hours are going to be back,
and that's great. That's a positive, and I think that everybody is looking for silver linings, looking for positives in their day to day. That's one of them. That's great, along with some other fun things going on over there.
Well, the question I've gotten literally 100 times is, when will the movies be back?
Yeah. And
the answer is March 7th.
Hey,
the movies will be back March 7th. We're going to run them at 1:30 with captioning, as we did. We're also going to run them at 6:30 instead of at 7. We think we want to get people in a little earlier, get them out a little earlier. 8 o'clock is late. 8:30 starts to get late. 9 o'clock starts to be late for people on a Monday.
Yeah.
And we want people to have as much access as possible. I can't mention any of the names, but I can tell you our first movie is going to be Tom Hanks, an award-winning Western that he did last year. Renee Zellweger as that woman who was in The Wizard of Oz is our second movie.
All right.
She won an Oscar for that. Sir Kenneth Branagh directing a movie about his hometown, which is up for 7 Oscars.
It was so good too. Oh, it was so good.
Yeah, I can't wait to show that.
Yeah.
And finally, we're going to show one of those enchanting Disney animated movies.
Okay.
That is also recent and up for Oscars. If you saw that streamed to your TV at home, it's going to look different on a 12-foot screen in a theater.
Yeah.
And we're going to run that during spring break. So we're hoping people come and get used to that again.
See, I think I gotta warn your wife here. I think I know why you're really retiring. You're getting into trivia. You're really good at this. You did a perfect job of that. I do every one of those movies, even without the title. That was pretty good.
For a librarian, a good job would be like writing the questions for Jeopardy.
Yes, yeah.
And librarians always do well when they get on Jeopardy. And there's a sore point that I never got on Jeopardy.
Yeah,
I feel badly about that. And now at my age, it's like, no, I can't do that stuff.
I want to start a campaign to get you on Jeopardy now. Especially with
I couldn't pass the test again. It's too many pop culture things that I don't pay attention to.
I hear you. Yeah. I want to touch on a couple of the other fun things going on over there. Next Thursday, you've got Write Night.
Yes.
It's such a cool thing. I love this one.
Yeah, we do a Write Night. It's an offshoot of our National Novel Writing Month, NaNoWriMo. And we do a year-round writers group, get writers in. They can talk to each other, talk about how do you handle this plot point? What are you doing? How do we get this published? How do we even get it typeset? How do we self-publish it? Or they just get together and have some coffee and donuts and sit and write for a while with someplace besides their own basement. And my son's just is preparing his second book. So shout out to John and his book 2 of his fantasy trilogy.
Nice.
And there's a lot of local writers, and thank God bless them all.
Yeah.
I'm in favor of writing.
Our area is so full of great, wonderful writers, and so many of them we're encouraging, we're supporting, and championing. I've recently been talking to an agent about getting into the Writers Guild and doing more work in that realm instead of acting. And I see this and immediately think of so many of my students at Second City and so many other people that I went to school with, who were just looking for this opportunity, just looking for something like that, for an opportunity to be around other writers. There's such a family atmosphere when you get writers together, and of sharing of information and community in that. Not every set, of course. You've got egos and you've got different things in different groups, and not so much in this area. It's welcome, and it's another reason why we appreciate McMillan and appreciate you guys thinking of these things. This isn't something that necessarily you had a huge clamoring for, but it was there. It just may have not been one voice, just multiple voices. Now we kind of have a place. We have a spot to go with this.
Well, and when we think about STEM, we have to think about writing, and we have to think about music, and we have to think about art. We have to think about all those things are part of a creative economy. And if you're just like, oh, the only important thing is, can you etch something or 3D print something? But can you write something? Can you record a short story and put it out as opposed to just writing it? Those are different skills. They're all great skills. They all should be rewarded. They all have a place in the marketplace, and we want to encourage them all. So we're pretty expansive when we talk about STEAM, because the art piece is a major one for us, and we're not quite as industrial as STEM might seem sometimes, though we're pretty industrial.
Well, and all great points right there too, especially because I do this all the time when we're talking about things that tend to not maybe get everybody on board. One thing that tends to get those people who usually aren't is people that are focused on the bottom line or money. If that's the case, the economic impact this has is noted almost every day in almost every commercial you hear or every advertisement you see. Anytime you walk into a place and a person is able to talk to you, like salesperson is able to talk to you well, it's all writing. This is all comes back to imagination. It's all tied together.
And it seems, when you walk in, you go, oh, they have all this fancy stuff, and then you have to go and say, okay, they have a class on this at Lincoln. They have a class on that in Lincoln. They have a class on this at Lincoln. They're introducing the kids to this at the middle school. There's not a single thing in our makerspace that isn't covered by classes at Lincoln. So we're turning out kids who can barely drive,
right.
who know how to do this stuff. How fancy is this? This is just as fancy as like a transistor radio. It is just the technology of today, and they know how. They're getting trained how to use it in high school, and we want them to be able to do it on their own, and we want them to be able to expand on it and learn new and different things than maybe show up in a classroom. So it seems real newfangled and fancy and hard to understand, and then some kid who's barely shaving comes over and shows you how to do it. It's like, okay, I guess I better get used to this, because this is how that works, and this is how that happens.
And for all the newfangledness and all those kind of things of this, it goes back to one of the oldest things that we do as a society is empowering kids, empowering the youth, and making them feel more confident, stronger, which again, if you want to go into the economic impact, most anybody who's in the workforce needs a little of that or could use a little more of that. So that adds up to that.
It does. And we're seeing high school graduates, college graduates who come out and they are trained to use this equipment. And then they get into a small business and this equipment's not available. They don't have Photoshop at their place of work, but we do.
Right.
But they need to, they know how to use Photoshop. It would benefit their job or their new business or something. They can come in, use Photoshop for an hour or two, and then they don't have to pay the license fees for their small business. So it's a way to keep their skills up and benefit small businesses and entrepreneurs. And so this is a business center in the way that you see in terms of co-working spaces where you can walk in. There's kind of a desk, there's hardware, there's software, there's a fax, a copier, a scanner, color printer, poster printer, all the software, and all that's available to anyone who needs it. And those are people who will have definite financial impact and economic impact. These kinds of things are being funded all around the country. Great Portage County is doing some of this. Other places are doing this. There's big grants coming through for this kind of thing. And we are the place in town that's doing this right now. Now, it'd be great if we were Appleton or Madison and there were all kinds of commercial places doing this. There aren't. And so we're filling that kind of gap and we're getting that done.
It's damn good work you're doing too. Appreciate
it. It's what the chamber told us they needed. It's what economic development told us they needed. We talked to regional economics. They go, what you're doing is what we need. It's what we want done. And we just didn't, this isn't a librarian thing. Right. We've talked to all kinds of people before we got into this.
We're going to take a really quick break. We'll be gone for just a minute. We'll come back and catch up with more things going on over in McMillan Library here on Morning Magazine.
Currently, it's 38.
Thanks a lot for that, Ash. Welcome back to Morning Magazine, everybody. Hope you're having a great day out there. We have McMillan Library's Andy Barnett with us. And again, thanks for being here, Mr. Barnett.
Always happy to be on.
It's so weird to call you Mr. Barnett.
Well, don't do that then.
I'm not going to do that anymore. I was trying something different there.
Yeah.
So I just
don't
want to
do
make
that. I'd say Mr. Barnett is my father, but my father was John. So.
There's a couple of things we want to certainly touch on. Where do you want to start?
We have our first concert in 2 years scheduled for March 10th. We're discussing still whether it'll start at 7 or a little later. It's the Wisconsin Jazz Orchestra. It's a 16-piece band that will be playing Duke Ellington, Count Basie, some more contemporary things from Wisconsin composers. A lot of the players are with the Central Wisconsin Symphony Orchestra or their university music professors in apparently Stevens Point, Appleton, and Green Bay. So we're looking forward to that. I'll have a little more on that. Most of our facility is open. Some of the meeting rooms and the makerspace, we're still waiting for certificate of occupancy on. Right now, we have in the We Stand on Their Shoulders display from the State Historical Society, which is about women's suffrage. We had that planned for 2020, which would have been the anniversary, 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, and then nothing happened there. Things got in the way. So we've got that up now and a bunch of books on that. That's very nice. We like that subject.
Well, it's incredibly important, but it very informative thing too to have right in town.
Yeah, I mean it's you think they may teach you in high school that all women got the vote in 1920, and of course Native American women did not get the vote at that point. They got the vote kind of later, and African American women rarely did not get the vote in 1920. And so it covers that suffrage was a really gradual thing and took a lot of work and a lot of protests and a lot of effort by all kinds of people.
It's right in the lower lobby. We stand on their shoulders, a history of Wisconsin women and voting, and that is going to be on display until February 26th. I encourage you to check that out.
And the next week, elementary art begins.
Oh,
so the schools will be in setting up their elementary art the next week, And we love to have the elementary art there because last time they did it, I had my granddaughter Abigail had a couple things in, so I'm always happy to see that. And we just love to fill the place with art and then with people looking at art, because what could be better?
Oh, and McMillan's always been so supportive of our schools around here. I'm thinking of when I was in high school and we had Bloodstone there and things, it's always been that way. It's always appreciated by the community too, because there's nothing like, especially for these kids, they get to go to the library and see one of their pieces of art being hung up or something. I mean, that's again, going back to empowering and confidence building, that feels pretty good. Yeah. No matter what age you are, but
we just love to put up local art and have kids in the building and have them do stuff. Some other smaller things, I think you mentioned Curry Night coming up for teens. We have family fun kits that you can pick up and do at home. We're doing the Right Nights. We've got a virtual tour of a volcano coming up, and of a Costa Rica volcano, and it's just, those kinds of things are just amazing. Author, poet Troy Schultz is coming back. Oh, good. He's spoken in the past. He's primarily a poet, but he's got some books published. And we keep trying to snowshoe through history at Skunk Hill, and the weather keeps being bad. Either there's no snow or it's 20 below. But we keep putting that back up on the schedule, and we're eager to get people out there tromping through the snow. And if they do that, I will finally get my snowshoes out of my trunk and actually use them this year. But if there's only 3 inches of snow on the ground,
it's kind of hard.
There's no point in wearing your snowshoes. Just
feels like you're kind of forcing it. Yeah. We haven't even really scratched the surface with all the things going on in McMillan. There's always something, and there's something for everybody kind of thing. We got a good 3-4 minutes left here. Is there any of these that we've touched on that you'd like to take a little time with to get into? I thought the aerial volcano, the virtual tour of that, is such a unique thing to bring to the library. Where did that idea come from to bring something like this to the community? Well,
I think they've developed more virtual type programs like that in the last 2 years, and so that kind of thing was, who would do that? Would anyone be interested? Now the answer is yes, of course they're interested, and of course with drones and things you can fly. You might as well be on a zip line without the looking down and worrying about falling off. So it's a good experience, and if it encourages people to take a broader view, maybe travel more, study science and volcanoes, or get into film production, because kids are producing their own TikToks these days. So film production is something we're looking at supporting. That's part of the recording studio aspect, is you need to record, you need to be able to edit video, but who has the best software on that? Right now, the best free place to do that without paying a whole bunch of money will be the library once we get the makerspace open.
It's another thing that I appreciate about McMillan, and so much about your tenure too. It's one thing to have the opportunity to come there and learn and these things. It's another to encourage and to also say, here's this information. It's all yours. Not so much the kind of like coveting of information, or you have to pay this amount of money to find out this, or the sharing of knowledge, I think is one of the greatest things you can do, one human being to another. Our library does that every day. As soon as those doors open from the end of the day, you are able to come there and learn and grow and take some of these things that Andy has been talking about today and that we've talked about many times with you.
I was on Twitter the other day, and there was this long feed of someone said, the audiobooks are free at the library, and so are ebooks. Tens of thousands of them. And people are like, what? And it's like, yep. I listen to all kinds of audiobooks, and they're free to download at the library, and you can get them on your phone. And there's all kinds of ebooks. You can get them on your iPad, and you paid for them. You pay your taxes. These are here for you. And people are just surprised by that because they're being offered commercially, and they figured they can't be offered.
There's got to be a catch.
There's got to be a catch. The catch is you pay your taxes, but you're going to pay your taxes anyway.
Right.
So you might as well benefit from this. And the more people use it, the better. And we can't get enough people informed about this because there's always more people who haven't seen it, don't understand it, and then are amazed by some of the services we offer.
You've got to come back before the end date for you. We've got to bring you back at least once.
Okay.
We got to talk to you at least once more before you
we'll
retire.
have, we'll have more movies, and
yeah.
we're hoping to be part of Cranberry Fest. And the theater will be open shortly, and we'll have lots more things. I want to bring Joanne in and have her talk about the makerspace.
Yeah, looking forward
once
to
we
that.
have it fully open.
If people have follow-up questions, Andy, if they want to reach out to you and just anything, can they get in contact with you?
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, they can come into the library, and
right.
we're happy to do tours. Joanne's the best person for tours of the makerspace. If groups want to do tours, call and we'll schedule a tour. If you have questions about our services, most of our staff is pretty well informed on those things. A lot of them are listed on the website. And if you see me walking around, grab me gently.
Yes, gently. Yes, and don't try to shock them. Don't try to surprise them. But
No
you
ropes
can.
or anything.
The website is McMillanLibrary.org. You can find out pretty much all the information right there, and also encourage you to follow them on social media. Thank you so much for the time, sir.
Thanks, James.
And Kev and our friends at Wisconsin Rapids Community Media, appreciate you guys as well. Thank you so much. We'll have more Money Magazine for you tomorrow right here on 97.5 FM, 1320 AM, locally grown radio, WFHR.